The obsidian walls of the Galactic High Council chamber hummed with suppressed energy, the air thick with the musk of 100 alien species. Holographic star maps flickered above the central podium, casting shifting blue light across the faces of the assembled delegates. Ambassador Elias Carter adjusted his tie, the only human in a sea of chitin scales and bioluminescent flesh. "Order," boomed the voice of Council Prime Yilthar, his 4 mandibles clicking in unison. The towering insectoid's thorax plates rattled as he took his perch. "We convene to address the human petition for military recognition." A ripple of laughter spread through the chamber. Ambassador Krelix of the Zepyrian Dominion rose, his segmented armor plates clacking like a suit of living bone. "You can't be serious," he sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. "Look at them. No natural armor, pitiful reflexes, barely out of their gravity well." His compound eyes glittered as he gestured toward Carter. "They still use chemical propulsion for Star's sake." Fleet Admiral Vorath of the Vorak hegemony leaned forward in his command throne, the biomechanical tendrils connecting him to his chair pulsing with amusement. "I've seen their so-called navy," he rumbled, flexing claws that could shred steel, primitive railguns, no shield technology, and they only cracked FTL 50 cycles ago. His warriors flanking him barked harsh laughs, their bio-armor rippling in sync. Carter kept his face neutral as the chamber erupted in derisive chatter. A Threxian delegate spat acidic mucus near his shoes, the floor sizzling where it landed. "Silence." Yilthar's antennae twitched. "Ambassador Carter, does your species have any counter-arguments?" Carter stepped forward, the weight of Earth's hopes pressing against his ribs. "With respect, Council Prime, humanity has..." "Has what?" Krelix interrupted, his carapace flushing crimson with amusement. "Your greatest military achievement was bombing yourselves back to the Stone Age during your world wars. The Federation has no use for such unstable species." Vorath's warriors pounded their chest plates in agreement, the hollow thumps echoing through the chamber. One leaned close to Carter, hot breath reeking of rotting meat. "Soft skin," it hissed, dragging a claw across Carter's cheek. Not deep enough to draw blood, but enough to make the point. Carter didn't flinch. He'd expected this. "The vote is called," Yilthar announced. Holographic tally markers flickered to life above each delegate. "By unanimous decision, the petition for human military recognition is denied." Krelix made a show of stretching his segmented limbs. "Let them rot in their gravity well," he said to Vorath, loud enough for the entire chamber to hear. "What can they do, throw rocks?" Vorath's laughter shook the chamber. "If they try, we'll throw them back." His warriors howled, clashing claws together in a deafening cacophony. Carter straightened his jacket, ignoring the blood welling on his cheek. He tapped his wristcom once, a prearranged signal. As he turned to leave, the chamber's massive doors groaned open ahead of him, as if even the station itself couldn't wait to be rid of humanity's presence. Behind him, Krelix called out one last jab. "Run along, little monkey. The adults have a galaxy to rule." Carter didn't look back. He had a transmission to send. The council chamber fell silent as the massive doors groaned open. A single figure floated in, ancient, skeletal, its metallic body pitted with age. The Dranic AI's optics glowed faintly blue as it moved toward the central podium, its hovering form leaving no shadow on the polished obsidian floor. Ambassador Krelix's crest flared in irritation. "This relic wastes our time. The human matter is settled." The Dranic's voice crackled like static on an old radio. "You dismiss them so easily. I have seen empires rise and fall across 10,000 cycles. None fought like the humans." Fleet Admiral Vorath snorted, his bio-armor rippling with amusement. "They barely mastered fusion when we found them. Their greatest war was fought with chemical explosives and primitive fission devices." A hologram flickered to life above the Dranic's outstretched hand. A ruined cityscape, skeletal buildings jutting from scorched earth, Stalingrad winter of Fae. The humans fought here for 6 months. When their guns froze, they used knives. When their knives broke, they used teeth. Archivist Shilthar crept forward, his carapace trembling. The records, the forbidden archives speak of this. Their world wars killed hundreds of millions. They called it total war. Krelix waved a dismissive talon. Ancient history. Their last global conflict ended before they discovered radio astronomy. The Dranic's optics brightened. Another image formed, a firestorm consuming a city, shadows burned into stone. Hiroshima, one primitive fission device. They built thousands after this, not for defense, for mutual annihilation. Vorath slammed a clawed fist on the armrest of his throne. Enough. Their petty tribal conflicts prove nothing. Look at them now. A dozen fractured nations squabbling over scraps. Shilthar's manipulator claws twitched nervously over his data slate. With respect, Fleet Admiral, the archives show a pattern. Every time humanity faced extinction, they responded with what? Krelix interrupted. More infighting. Their so-called United Earth nearly collapsed last cycle over resource disputes. The Dranic's hologram shifted again, a grainy video feed. Human soldiers in ragged uniforms charging across frozen mud, bayonets fixed. The Eastern Front. Fae, when surrounded, they fought harder. When starving, they grew more vicious. You think you understand war? The ancient AI's voice dropped to a whisper. You have never fought humans. Vorath stood, his armored bulk casting a shadow across the chamber. This is absurd. We've scanned their current military capabilities. Their largest warship couldn't penetrate a Vorak frigate's shields. Shilthar's data slate beeped urgently. The archives. There is more. Their historical texts speak of something called scorched earth. When facing defeat, they would burn their own cities, poison their own wells. Krelix snatched the slate and crushed it in one motion. Eno of this madness. We are the Galactic Council, not historians debating dead civilizations. The shattered component sparked at his feet. The human petition is denied. This session is adjourned. As the delegates dispersed, the Dranic remained motionless at the podium. Its optics tracked Shilthar slinking toward the archive's access terminal. The archivist's mandibles clicked nervously as he input override codes. You seek the truth, the Dranic murmured. Shilthar's antennae trembled. The records from their Cold War, the doomsday devices they built but never used. A security drone buzzed toward them. Shilthar quickly shielded the screen, but not before the Dranic glimpsed the schematic, a crude spherical device with markings in an ancient human script. Tsar Bomba. The drone's scanner light passed over them. Archivist Shilthar. Unauthorized access to restricted. Vorath's voice boomed across the chamber. Shilthar, stop wasting time with dead species nightmares. We have real enemies to crush. The archivist bowed his head, hastily closing the files. As he turned to leave, the Dranic's whisper followed him. They will come for the records. Burn them yourself. It will be kinder. Shilthar paused at the doorway. Behind him, he heard the ancient AI's final words to the empty chamber. The dead do not fear them without reason. Captain Ryan Blake stared at the flickering transmission from the Galactic High Council. The words, "Non," threat burned brighter than the red alert lights on the USN Defiance's bridge. His knuckles whitened around the armrests of his command chair as the alien delegate's laughter echoed through the speakers one last time before the feed cut out. "Play it again," Blake said, his voice low. Lieutenant Chen hesitated. "Sir, we've watched it 12 times already." I said, "Play it again." The hologram shimmered back to life. Ambassador Krelix's scaled face filled the projection, his forked tongue flicking between needle teeth. Humanity lacks the biological advantages necessary for... Pause. Blake stood, his boots clicking against the steel deck plating. He stepped into the hologram, face to face with the frozen Zepyrian sneer. "You hear that, boys? We're too squishy for the big kids' table. Across the bridge, engineer Lisa Hayes didn't look up from her welding torch. Sparks rained down on the exposed quantum railgun coupling as her voice crackled through her mask. "Tell that to my goddamn torque wrench." The Defiance hummed around them, a patchwork beast of salvaged alien alloys and human stubbornness. Blake ran a hand along the bulkhead, feeling the vibration of engines that shouldn't work, built with materials they'd reverse. "Engineered from wreckage, Captain?" Ensign Rivera called from comms. "Admiral Morrison's on the secure channel, says it is time." Blake's smile didn't reach his eyes. "About damn time." 3 decks down, Lisa Hayes kicked open the reactor room door, grease streaking her jumpsuit. Her wrench clanged against the floor as she grabbed the dangling headset. "Talk to me, Jake." Admiral Morrison's face filled the cracked screen, the scar across his forehead pulsing red under the emergency lighting. Black Dawn is green-lit. "All shipyards report ready status." Lisa wiped sweat from her brow, leaving a black smear. "They really think we've only got 50 ships?" Morrison's grin was all teeth. "Let them. How is my favorite engineer?" She kicked the reactor casing. "Just finished, jury. Rigging the Zepyrian plasma converters to our railgun arrays. Turns out their superior tech overheats if you look at it funny." A pause. "Ryan know yet?" "About the fleet. He will soon." Morrison leaned closer to the camera. "Lisa, when the shooting starts, I know. No prisoners." She yanked a frayed cable, and the screen went dark. The war room beneath Lunar Command smelled of stale coffee and gun oil. Admiral Morrison stood before the holographic star map, red icons marking Vorak strongholds around the table. Earth's last surviving generals sat in silence. "Operation Thunderclap commences in 6 hours, Morrison said. The map zoomed in on Pluto's orbit, where hundreds of blips winked into existence. "The Vorak think they're coming to burn our colonies. They don't know we've been building in the dark." General Okafor's cane tapped against the floor. 500 ships hidden behind Charon's mass shadow. God help us all. Morrison's fist hit the table. "God's busy. We've got quantum, tipped railguns, and a grudge." The star map shifted, showing the Defiance's position near Mars. "Blake's crew will take the first hit. They know what that means." A young lieutenant cleared his throat. "Sir, the casualty projections are wrong," Morrison interrupted. "Because the Vorak don't understand one thing." He tapped the console, and the screen filled with archival footage. Stalingrad's ruins, Hiroshima's mushroom cloud, the burning oil fields of Kuwait. When backed into a corner, humans don't break, we multiply. Back on the Defiance, Blake stood at the observation deck, staring at the pinprick lights of Mars colony. His reflection in the reinforced glass showed a man 10 years older than his file photo. Lisa joined him, tossing a wrench from hand to hand. Morrison gave the order, didn't he? Blake didn't turn. "We're the anvil, Lisa. The hammer's still hidden," she snorted. "Typical. Humans invent stealth in space, and we use it to hide an entire goddamn armada." The wrench stopped moving. "They'll come for Mars first." "I know, and we let them." Blake finally looked at her. "Right up until the moment we don't." His comm beeped. All decks reporting ready status. The Defiance's engines thrummed to full power, vibrating through the deck plates. Lisa cracked her knuckles. Time to show the galaxy why they should have left us in our gravity well. Outside the viewport, the stars seemed to hold their breath. The Vorak fleet dropped out of warp with a ripple of distorted space, their obsidian hulls blotting out the stars above Mars. 100 warships, each larger than the last human dreadnought ever built. Admiral Vorath's flagship, the Worldbreaker, loomed over Olympus Mons like a vulture eyeing carrion. On the Martian defense grid, alarms screamed. Captain Ryan Blake watched from the bridge of the Defiance as tactical displays painted the incoming fleet in angry red icons. "All stations, battle readiness," he said, his voice calm, too calm. Lisa Hayes' fingers flew across her engineering console, diverting power from non-essential systems. The ship hummed as its quantum railguns charged. "Mars Orbital Command to all vessels," crackled the comm. "Stand by for..." The transmission cut off as the first Vorak plasma lance sliced through the command station. Molten metal spun silently into the void. Vorath's face appeared on every screen in the system, his chitinous mandibles clicking in amusement. "Human defenders, you have one opportunity to surrender your colonies, kneel, and we may allow some of you to live as servants." Blake punched the comm button. "This is Captain Ryan Blake of the United Earth Space Navy. Get the hell out of our system." Laughter echoed through the bridge speakers, not just Vorath's dozens of Vorak officers joining in. "Your defiance is adorable," Vorath sneered, "like a hatchling biting at a warrior's armor. Observe." The Worldbreaker's main weapon glowed violet. A beam of pure energy lanced out, not at the Defiance, but at the USN Atlantica orbiting Phobos. The human cruiser's shields held for exactly 3 seconds before failing. The beam carved through armor like paper, detonating the fusion core in a silent fireball. "One down," Vorath said. "Shall we continue?" Lisa's console beeped urgently. "Captain, their shields are adapting to our railgun frequencies. We can't get a lock." Blake gripped his armrests. "Helm, evasive pattern. Delta, all batteries, fire at will." The Defiance banked hard as its railgun spat tungsten slugs at the nearest Vorak destroyer. The projectiles impacted, then shattered against suddenly shimmering energy fields. "No effect," shouted the weapons officer. Vorak fighters swarmed like angry hornets, plasma bolts stitching across the Defiance's hull. An explosion rocked the bridge, throwing Blake against his console. Blood trickled from his temple. "Damage report. Port thrusters gone." Lisa coughed through smoke. "Shields at Faye. They're toying with us, sir." On screen, Vorath leaned forward, his compound eyes glinting. "This is your strength, pathetic. I expected more from the species that dared petition the Council." His clawed hand made a dismissive gesture. "Finish them." 3 Vorak battleships pivoted their main guns toward the drifting Defiance. Warning sirens wailed as targeting locks screamed across the bridge. Blake looked at his crew, Lisa bleeding from a cut above her eye, the helmsman gripping his broken arm, the weapons officer frantically trying to reboot systems. They met his gaze. No fear, only fury. "All hands," Blake said quietly. "Brace for..." The universe exploded in white light, but not from the Vorak guns. From behind the Defiance, something massive dropped out of warp. Then another, and another. Dozens of human ships. Not the cobbled, together retrofits the Vorak expected, but sleek new warships with glowing blue drive cores. Their hulls bore fresh shipyard markings. Earth's hidden fleet. Lisa whooped as her console lit up with friendly IF signals. "It is the Retribution, and the Vengeance, Captain. It is the whole damn Black Dawn fleet." Vorath's face flickered on screen again, his mandibles slack with shock. "Impossible. Your shipyards were monitored." Admiral Morrison's voice cut in as his flagship, the USN Titan, took position beside the Defiance. "We built these in the asteroid belt, while you were watching Mars." The old admiral's grin was all teeth. "Welcome to the real first contact, Vorath." The Vorak fleet hesitated, just for a second. But a second was all humanity needed. The Defiance's bridge shuddered as another plasma volley rocked the hull. Captain Blake gripped his armrest, watching the Vorak flagship loom larger on the view screen. Its bio, armor pulsed with sickly green light, weapons charging for the killing blow. "Shields at Faye," Lieutenant Cho reported, blood dripping from a gash on his forehead. "Main power failing." Lisa Hayes' fingers flew across her engineering console, rerouting power from non-essential systems. "I can give you one more shot from the railguns," she said through gritted teeth. "After that, we're floating scrap." Blake nodded. "Make it count, Target there. A massive explosion cut him off. The view screen flared white as the USN Atlantica detonated under concentrated Vorak fire. The dying cruiser's debris field scattered across Mars' orbit, burning up in the thin upper atmosphere. "Atlantica's gone," comms officer Petrov whispered. The words hung in the smoke, filled air on screen. Fleet Admiral Vorath's scaled face appeared, his forked tongue flicking in amusement. "Your strongest ship lasted 17 seconds. The Vorak commander sneered. "Submit now, and we may spare your breeding worlds." Blake wiped blood from his lip. "You want Earth. Come take it." Vorath's laughter cut off as the transmission ended. The Vorak flagship's main cannon began glowing brighter, building toward full power. "Captain," Lisa said suddenly, her eyes locked on a blinking signal from Earth. "Black Dawn signal received. It is time." Blake's bruised face split into a feral grin. He punched the fleet-wide comm. "All ships execute Operation Thunderclap. I repeat, Thunderclap is go." For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. The Vorak fleet continued their leisurely bombardment of Mars' defenses. Then space itself seemed to ripple behind Earth's moon. The lunar surface cracked open. Massive orbital shipyard doors slid apart, revealing row upon row of gleaming human warships. Not the 50 vessels the Vorak intelligence reports had claimed. Not even the 500 the Galactic Council feared. 1,000 ships surged forward, their hybrid engines burning blue with salvaged alien tech and human modifications. The lead battleship, the USN Vengeance, locked its main batteries on the nearest Vorak cruiser. "Open fire." Admiral Morrison's voice crackled across the fleet-wide channel. The first uranium, tipped railgun slug punched clean through the Vorak cruiser's energy shields. The second shattered its armor like glass. The third detonated its reactor core in a spectacular fireball that lit up the Martian night. Vorak comms channels erupted in panicked chatter. "Shields ineffective." One commander screamed before his transmission cut off abruptly. "Their weapons are..." Another began, then static. On the Defiance's bridge, Lisa whooped as power readings spiked. Secondary reactors online, rerouting all energy to weapons. The ship shuddered as its railgun cycled back up to full power. Blake watched the tide turn on his tactical display. Human ships moved with terrifying coordination, swarming Vorak vessels like wolves taking down prey. The USN Retribution executed a perfect pincer maneuver, trapping a Vorak dreadnought between its twin railgun batteries. The alien ship came apart like wet paper. Meanwhile, the Defiance's repaired systems hummed back to life. "Shields at Fey and climbing," Cho reported, disbelief coloring his voice. "We're back in this, sir." On the main view screen, Fleet Admiral Vorath's face reappeared, his earlier smugness replaced by dawning horror. "Impossible," the Vorak hissed. "Your species barely achieved FTL a decade ago." Lisa leaned into the comm pickup, her grin wild. "You should have checked our patent office records," she said sweetly. "We've been busy." Morrison's voice cut across all channels, his transmission broadcasting on every Vorak and human frequency. "Galactic High Council, this is Earth Admiralty Command. You wanted to see human strength?" The view screen split to show Morrison standing before a massive tactical display, Vorak homeworlds highlighted in red. "Now you'll learn why we don't ask for permission." The Defiance's railguns locked onto the Vorak flagship. Blake met Vorath's widening eyes. "For the Atlantica," he said quietly, then nodded to weapons control. The railguns fired. The Vorak flagship's shields flared and failed. Its bio-armor cracked. Then the bridge screen went dark as the alien vessel exploded in a silent fireball. Lisa whooped again, slapping her console. "Direct hit. That is for calling us soft skins, you overgrown." "Ensign," Blake cut in, though his own lips twitched upward. "Bring us about. We've got a war to win." Across the solar system, human ships pressed their advantage. The Vorak fleet, so confident minutes before, now scrambled in disarray. Their vaunted bio-armor proved useless against human railguns. Their superior numbers meant nothing against human tactics honed over centuries of warfare. On the Galactic Council's observation satellite, Ambassador Krelix watched the battle unfold with mounting dread. His Zephyrian scales flushed pale as human ships systematically dismantled the Vorak armada. "The Dranic warned us," he whispered to no one. "O ancestors, what have we done?" The Defiance's bridge flickered with emergency lighting, half the consoles dark. Smoke curled from shattered panels. Captain Blake wiped blood from his split lip, his fingers leaving crimson streaks across the tactical display. The Vorak flagship loomed on screen, its bio-armored hull glistening like a predator's carapace. "Open a channel," Blake said. His voice didn't raise, didn't need to. Lisa Hayes, her left arm wrapped in a makeshift bandage, tapped the console. "They're listening." The main screen dissolved into the Vorak bridge. Fleet Admiral Vorath lounged on his command throne, mandibles spread in amusement. Behind him, his bridge crew chittered, their clawed hands pausing over glowing controls. "Still breathing, soft skin," Vorath rasped. "I admire your persistence, like a crippled prey beast dragging itself." Blake interrupted. "You think strength is armor?" He leaned forward, his chair creaking. "Strength is burning your own world to salt rather than kneel." Vorath's amusement faded. His claws tightened on the armrests. "You don't know war," Blake continued. "Not real war. Not the kind that scrapes cities off the map and leaves the ground poisoned for 10,000 years. The Defiance shuddered as a secondary explosion rocked engineering. Blake didn't flinch. "Hiroshima, Stalingrad. The scorched earth doctrine. We wrote the book on annihilation." On screen, one of the Vorak lieutenants turned pale, his frills flattening. Lisa brought up a secondary display. Ancient footage flickered, mushroom clouds boiling over deserts, trenches filled with frozen corpses, a city reduced to skeletal ruins. "You dismissed us," Blake said. "Called us weak because we don't have claws, because we don't shed our skin or spit acid." He smiled, teeth red. "But weakness isn't about what you lack. It is about what you're willing to lose." Vorath stood, his armored carapace clicking. "Enough. Your pitiful history means nothing. Your ship is dead. Your fleet scatters. You have..." "Wrong," Blake said. He tapped his console. Across the system, human ships lit up, railguns charging, missile bays opening. The Vorak tactical display flared crimson as 1,000 targeting locks activated. Lisa grinned, her fingers dancing over the weapons console. "Surprise, you overgrown roaches." Blake's face filled every Vorak screen, his eyes like chips of Arctic ice. "You wanted a demonstration of human strength. Here it is." He leaned closer. "We don't fight for territory. We don't fight for resources. We fight because once you start a war with us, there is only one way it ends." Vorath's bridge erupted into chaos. Officers scrambled, their claws slipping on controls. The tactical display showed human ships converging, their formations tight, their guns live. "Admiral," a Vorak lieutenant whispered. "Their weapons, they're not targeting our ships." Vorath's frills stiffened. "What?" Blake's smile didn't reach his eyes. "We're targeting your homeworlds, every Vorak colony, every breeding hive." The Defiance's railguns hummed to life, their barrels glowing white. "Hut, you came to our system thinking this was a skirmish. It is not. It is extermination." Vorath's claws snapped the armrests of his throne. "You wouldn't dare." The Galactic Council burned their own archives to hide what we are, Blake said. "Now you'll learn why." Lisa punched the final command. Across the fleet, targeting solutions locked. Blake leaned back, blood dripping onto his collar. "You dismissed us. Now you fear us." The Vorak bridge dissolved into screams. The alarms on the Defiance's bridge screamed like dying animals. Captain Blake wiped blood from his forehead. his fingers leaving crimson streaks across the tactical display. Status report. Port thrusters gone. Lieutenant Cho coughed, her hands dancing over flickering controls. Shields at 12%. Railgun capacitors charging at half speed. Outside the cracked viewport, the Vorak fleet burned across the Martian sky. Their dreadnoughts' organic cannons pulsed with sickly green light, preparing another volley. The USN Atlantica's wreckage still tumbled through space, her shattered hull glowing white, hot from atmospheric re-entry. Lisa Hayes's voice crackled over the comms, raw with static. Black Dawn is live. Repeat. Black Dawn is... The transmission cut off as a Vorak plasma torpedo detonated against the Defiance's bow. The deck plates buckled, throwing Blake against his harness. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in blood, red hues. Then the moon split open. 1,000 new signatures bloomed on the tactical screen. The lunar surface cracked apart like an eggshell, revealing cavernous shipyards hidden beneath decades of camouflage. Gleaming human warships surged forth. Retrofitted freighters turned gun platforms, asteroid miners converted into missile barges, and at their heart, the USN Vengeance, a dreadnought built in secret with stolen Vorak shield tech. Vorath's face appeared on the main viewer, his chitinous brow plates twitching. Impossible. Scans showed your shipyards were decoys, Blake spat. Like our primitive railguns. He punched a command into his console. Lisa, light them up. Across the fleet, human railguns discharged in perfect synchronization. Uranium slugs the size of skyscrapers punched through Vorak energy shields like tissue paper. The lead dreadnought's organic armor ruptured, spewing pressurized ichor into the void. Shields ineffective. A Vorak tactical officer shrieked off, "Screen, they're using our own harmonic." The transmission dissolved into static as the dreadnought's core detonated. Secondary explosions rippled through the formation, each new fireball marking another Vorak vessel torn apart by human fire. On the Defiance's bridge, Lisa's voice returned, triumphant. "Safeties are off, Captain. I've routed life support to the guns." Blake didn't hesitate. "Do it." The Defiance shuddered as her remaining railguns charged beyond rated capacity. Warning klaxons wailed as atmospheric pressure dropped. Crewmen clutched emergency oxygen masks, their breath fogging the inside of visors. Vorath's flagship loomed ahead, its bulbous command spire bristling with weapon emplacements. Blake locked eyes with the Vorak admiral through the view screen. "You wanted to see human strength?" He slammed his fist on the firing control. "Here it is." 3 tungsten rounds left the Defiance's guns at fei-fei. The first shattered the flagship's forward shields. The second punched through its spinal armor. The third detonated inside the main reactor chamber. The explosion lit up Mars' night side brighter than the sun. Vorak ships broke formation, their disciplined ranks dissolving into chaos. Human vessels swarmed like angry hornets, ignoring losses, sacrificing crippled ships as battering rams. A retrofitted mining barge plowed into a Vorak carrier, its cargo hold stuffed with fusion warheads. The resulting fireball vaporized 3 escort frigates. Lisa whooped over the comms as her jury. Rigged systems overloaded another dreadnought's shields. They're adapting, switching to pattern Epsilon. Blake watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The Vorak fleet was collapsing, their technological advantage nullified by human unpredictability. Where they expected orderly volleys, they got suicidal charges. Where they anticipated retreat, they found boarding parties cutting through bulkheads with plasma torches. Vorath's face reappeared, his mandibles quivering. You're not soldiers, you're madmen." Blake unbuckled his harness, blood dripping from a gash on his temple. "No," he said, gripping the helm controls. "We're humans." He punched the engines to full burn. The Defiance, her hull cracked and bleeding atmosphere, accelerated toward Vorath's crippled flagship. Alarms blared as structural integrity warnings flashed across every screen. Crewmen braced against bulkheads, some praying, others laughing like lunatics. Vorath's eyes widened. You wouldn't. The Defiance's prow slammed into the flagship's command spire at meters per second. Metal screamed. Bulkheads collapsed. For one glorious moment, the two ships were locked in a death embrace. Human and Vorak, predator and prey. Then the Defiance's quantum core breached. The explosion tore both ships apart, sending a shockwave rippling through the remaining Vorak forces. Blake's final transmission echoed across every frequency, human and alien alike. Welcome to Earth. Silence fell over the battlefield. Then, one by one, the remaining human ships powered weapons, targeting lasers painted Vorak retreat vectors. Admiral Morrison's voice cut through the quiet cold as interstellar void. Surrender or burn, choose fast. Somewhere in the wreckage, Vorath's last scream echoed through the void. Unanswered, the council chamber was silent. The obsidian walls that had once echoed with mocking laughter now reflected only the flickering emergency lights. Ambassador Krelix's frills lay flat against his skull as he stared at the holographic feed. Vorak dreadnoughts burned in high orbit over 3 of their core worlds. Human ships patrolled the wreckage like sharks. We offer Earth a high seat, Krelix rasped, his voice translator cracking with static. Full membership in the Admiral Morrison's face filled the central display. Blood streaked his temple where a console had exploded during the battle. His smile showed teeth. We don't ask for chairs, Ambassador. We take them. Behind him, the bridge of the U.S. and Vengeance buzzed with activity. Engineers welded breached bulkheads. Medics dragged wounded past flickering screens. Lisa Hayes stood at Morrison's shoulder, her hands blackened from hours of jury, rigged repairs. She hadn't stopped grinning since the Defiance's last transmission. On the secondary feed, Captain Blake's final moments played on loop, his shattered bridge, the Defiance's prow plowing through the Vorak flagship's command spire, his laughter as the fusion cores detonated. Every council species had seen it 12 times in the past hour. Shilthar's claws trembled against his data slate. The archivist had watched the battle from the orbital observation deck, seen how human ships fought, no elegant formations, no honor duels between capital ships. Just wave after wave of railgun fire, each slug timed to impact the same shield quadrant until it failed. How their smaller vessels rammed Vorak engine clusters without hesitation. How they ignored losses that would have broken any civilized fleet. Your terms? Krelix asked. Morrison leaned forward. Vorak space is under quarantine. Any ship leaving their home system gets vaporized. Earth controls the trade lanes through Sector Prime. And you, he tapped a command into his console. The council's central podium split open as a steel pole erupted from its base. A blue and white flag unfurled at the top. You remember who planted that there. The transmission cut. Across the chamber, alien delegates exchanged glances. None dared approach the fluttering human standard. On Mars, reconstruction crews worked through the night. The Vorak bombardment had cracked the domes over New Berlin, but the underground farm still stood. Children played in the rubble while their parents' jury rigged atmospheric scrubbers from wrecked Vorak fighters. In Earth's lunar shipyards, Lisa walked the gantries above the new dreadnoughts. Twice the size of the Defiance quad, mounted railguns, reactors salvaged from Vorak wrecks and modified with human brutality. She paused by a half, assembled prow running fingers over the stenciled name, U.S. in Blake's fist. Admiral wants you on the Andromeda probe team, said a technician, handing her a datapad. Picked up something weird during the battle. Lisa scrolled through the report. Anomalous energy signatures, transmission patterns matching no known species, and one repeating phrase in fractured but recognizable English. They're coming. She looked up at the skeletal frames of 30 new warships. The welders' sparks fell like stars. Good, she said.